Hi, my name is Alan Chacon, and this is for my formal informative speech discussion forum assignment for public speaking. I have decided to surround my speech and my presentation today about teenage drug use. I will start now. There is no doubt that the use of such drugs has been used more by teenagers, them becoming addicted, jeopardizing their health, and not only losing those close to them, but themselves as well. Any person, or in this case, the teenagers, do not use these drugs with the intention to become addicted. There are many factors and reasons that can help contribute to one to become addicted to these substances. In this PowerPoint, I will go into more further detail about this, and we will discuss some reasons why teenagers return to drugs and what are the effects or risks that this can have on them later in life. I will start the presentation now. So the first slide is about why teenagers use drugs. As the use of drugs has increased over the years, so has the number of teenagers using those drugs. As some drugs are starting to become more legal, the more accessible these drugs may be for teenagers under the age of 18. As time goes by, drugs are now starting to become more legal here in the United States, and while that might be good for some, especially if you are somebody that needs this for medical purposes, I believe that's a good reason. But for young teenagers, it's now going to become more accessible and they'll be more prone to trying these drugs. Some common reasons to why a teenager might want to consider using these drugs: if they are suffering from stress, if they are depressed, have emotional struggles, peer pressure from students or friends, isolation from others, and sometimes just out of pure curiosity. As teenagers are growing and they're learning more about the world, they will become more curious about things. And if they are being prohibited of trying these drugs, it is more likely that they would want to try them while in high school or college. Drugs may serve as an escape for teenagers if they are unhappy and cannot find a healthy alternative or an outlet for what they are feeling. By self-medicating, they may be able to feel bliss. Hence, it can even sometimes make them more energized and confident in themselves. And we'll move to the next slide. In this slide, we are talking about social factors and contributions. So what other factors can contribute to one or the teenager becoming or wanting to use drugs? There are a wide variation of social factors that can contribute to this. Some common forms of these factors are, but not limited to, issues occurring at the home, isolation from friends, isolation from family members, mental health issues, behavior issues, financial concerns, problems, and etc. Most of the issues that are involved with drug usage can begin with the home. This can set the process to go into motion. Sometimes, if there is a history of dependence on drugs or alcohol that run in the family, the likelihood of the child at hand is at more of a higher risk to developing a drug or alcohol problem later in their life. Another issue can be that occurring in the home is how the child is being treated. There are high levels of expectancy and control of maturity for the child depending on their age and role within the family. Also, for example, any form of abuse, negativism, parental inconsistency, denial, expressed forms of anger can all combine together and be another reason as to why teenagers might turn to drugs for an outlet. And in the next slide, we are continuing these factors and contributions. For example, if the user happens to have a mental health condition like depression, anxiety, ADHD, or other conditions similar, they may be more of a risk for using drugs. And here we are talking more about if the teenager is struggling with a mental health or behavioral issue, and And by turning to drugs, it can help them ease these emotions. Now, let me say a note, just because someone is suffering from any type of disability or mental or behavioral, it does not mean they will always turn to drugs. It solely depends on the person at hand. Another factor that can contribute to this need for wanting to turn to drugs or becoming addicted is peer pressure. Peer pressure plays a large role in contributing to one's addiction. Peer pressure is something that happens very commonly, especially amongst teenagers. The user may feel pressured by friends or other peers to take part in an activity such as drugs to feel cool and or to fit with a group of people. Normally, if one sees a singular person or a group of others doing something, regardless if it's bad or not, it's common for that person to follow along. This can act as a domino effect. In an article from Lauren King, a woman in recovery from her drug addiction expressed her experience using drugs and how they affected her. In her article, she wrote, "I wanted to fit in and feel better about myself because I didn't feel like I could turn to my parents for advice and guidance. I turned to my peers. At first, the drugs and alcohol gave me confidence, self-esteem, and filled the void I carried around me for so many years." That was from an article written by her, and that really does play a large role in many teenagers' life. I feel that many young teenagers can relate to this. Continuing on, now that we've gone over the social factors and contributions, it's now time to discuss the types of drugs. The most common types of drugs are, but not limited to, alcohol, marijuana, prescription-type pills, heroin, crack, cocaine, needle injections, LSD, or acid. These psychoactive drugs can fall into categories such as stimulants, depressants, opiates, and hallucinogens, each having a different side effect on a person's brain and body. As these types of drugs are highly abused and increase the risk of one's addiction, what causes this is by a certain active ingredient in these substances. This is what you would call meth. This can give an addictive taste of niche drugs and cause pleasurable feeling, hence encouraging or wanting to make this teenager do more drugs for the type of feeling that it gives them. In the next slide, we talk about the risks and effects of taking drugs. As no drugs are the exact same, each type will have a different effect and impact on one's brain and body. Some people might have a high tolerance while others do not. This may depend on the person, their health status, and how long and how they have been taking the drugs and how long. Young teenagers whose brains are still developing can be more prone to developing an addiction. Sometimes these drugs may serve as a relief for some, while other times it can worsen their health and their brains. While users use these drugs to help keep them sane, these can also damage their exterior appearance and their mental state as well. In a study, it was stated that 1.4 million teenagers need treatment to treat any illicit drug problem in the year of 2016. And in the year of 2011, from the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse found that 90% of Americans were found diagnosed with having a substance abuse disorder. When a user is consistently taking these drugs, their bodies become so used to it. And let's say, for example, that these drugs were taken away from them or they happen to have run out. They will go through something called a withdrawal or a cold turkey. And during these withdrawals, they will undergo symptoms such as body tremor, shakes, puking. Some might become sick. They have panic attacks. And it's their body demanding to have these drugs in their system. The next slide, healing. Now, there is no proper way to heal from an addiction, especially in drugs and alcohol, but there are many other forms to get help, and it is an long-going battle, but if you go get help, you will most likely help yourself heal from it. I will start. A user, in this case the teenager, may not realize, but there are other alternatives to control and manage their feelings and thoughts without turning to drugs. Some hobbies or activities that these users can turn to are exercising and gym or playing sports, reading, painting, woodworking, gardening, hanging out with a positive group of minded people, and joining communities and social groups. There are many outlets a user may speak to, for example, their parents, siblings, teachers, therapists, and much more. And if a user or the teenager is wanting to try and go get to overcome or manage their addictions, there are many rehab facilities that they may attend to where they will receive the proper help that they need, therapists, an outlet, a positive outlet, and someone that they can talk to help for their road on recovery. And these were the sources I had used. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I was able to educate you in some way and that you found something new that you may have not known before. If you are someone you know is struggling from a drug addiction, please check out the links down below and please go get help. It is okay to ask for help and you deserve it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed.